It's the middle of the night and you're scared. The pain in your belly is getting worse. You're new to the neighborhood and you don't speak the language. That storm outside has made the roads impossible, so getting to the hospital is out of the question. Not that it makes any difference, because they wouldn't admit you anyway. Your next-door neighbor gently holds your hand, telling you to hold on, everything will be all right. Someone just sent for the lady doctor, and she's on her way.
You've planted your dreams. It's time to release. No more fear. No more fear. Surrender it all. Trust you won't fall. Time to fly. Time to fly.
Welcome back to the Aquitaine Project, a podcast all about learning from yesterday, how we can shine today and create a brighter tomorrow. I'm Marlo Mead, your host, guide, and fellow traveler on a journey where together we draw upon the lessons, wisdom, and experiences of women past and present, women I affectionately call my bright lighters. In each episode, I'll bring to light their stories, voices, and legacies, inspiring each of us to become bright lighters in our own right. For me, these women transcend time, teaching us lessons we can use in our own lives each and every day. Shining their light from different centuries, cultures, and corners of the earth, they light the way, making it possible for each of us to create our own light and shine it forward. So, if you're ready to step into the light of some pretty remarkable women and learn a little, grow a little, laugh a little, and shine a lot, stick around.
Free your soul.
What does it feel like to have a calling, a deep desire to accomplish something meaningful, to contribute to the world, to be of service to others? For me, it started with the tiny seed of a thought, a nagging idea that lodged itself in the back of my brain, and a feeling I could not get rid of. For years I tried to ignore it, bury it under living life, raising a family, focusing on a career. But the darn thing wouldn't go away. It just kept getting louder and louder and pushier and more insistent, growing into a giant Venus flytrap saying, "Feed me," until finally one day, a couple of years ago, I said, "Fine, I'll do it." So I did, and now I'm here, sharing with you the amazing legacy of a woman who epitomizes for me what it truly means to selflessly give of yourself in the service of others. This episode's bright lighter wrapped her arms around the people in her community, caring for their bodies, minds, and spirits, while fearlessly facing down racism and sexism so her community, her people could live happier, healthier lives. This was her calling, and it all started with chickens. When Justina Lorena Warren was a little girl growing up in the aftermath of the Civil War, she knew early on she wanted to be a doctor. Her mother was a nurse, and Justina would follow her around as she cared for former slaves that lived in their community. During these visits, Justina learned the proper uses and benefits of African herbs and roots. A naturally curious child, Justina would jump at the chance to help her mother make dinner, as long as she got to cut up the chicken, so she could see firsthand what was inside and what made a chicken work. Justina also loved to play hospital with her friends and siblings, but only if she got to be the doctor, and her creative little mind would invent new names for diseases and medicines to cure her patients. As Justina got older, it became clear to her family that she dreamed of becoming a doctor, a dream her mother wholeheartedly supported. After graduating from high school, her family scrimped and saved up enough money for Justina to attend the Herring Medical College in Chicago, a school for homeopathic medicine. Homeopathy, for those of you who are curious, is medical treatment based on the principle and philosophy that like cures like, and by introducing a small amount of a disease into the body, will encourage the body to heal itself. For example, using small amounts of pollen to desensitize a person who is allergic to pollen, or using snake venom to create an antivenom for snake bites. In 1892, while still in medical college, Justina met and married the Reverend John Elijah Ford. After graduating and practicing medicine in Chicago for a few years, her husband was assigned to the Zion Baptist Church in Denver, the oldest African American church in the Rocky Mountains. So, in 1902, Dr. Justina Ford made her way west to Denver, where over the next 50 years, she established a medical practice that impacted countless lives, fought for health equity, challenged the prevailing attitudes of racism and sexism, and inspired new generations of medical professionals and social advocates. In short, Dr. Justina Ford became a local hero and a living legend. But being a woman doctor, let alone a Black woman doctor in the early 1900s, was a struggle, to say the least. In fact, throughout the mid-1800s to the mid-1900s, women seeking to pursue a medical degree were met with fierce resistance. The very thought of a woman becoming a doctor made men's heads explode. In the 1840s, the students of Harvard Medical School, upon learning that a woman had applied to the college, wrote this objection, and I quote, "We are resolved that we object to having the company of any female forced upon us who is disposed to unsex herself and to sacrifice her modesty by appearing with men in the lecture room." Unquote. Or how about this gem from Harvard professor Edward H. Clark in 1874, who suggested that women seeking advanced education would develop monstrous brains and puny bodies and abnormally weak digestion. Wow. Really, guys? I only bring this up to illustrate the point that if white women of the times had to fight tooth and nail for their rightful place in medical society, imagine how much more difficult it must have been for women of color. Nearly impossible, I'd say. Lucky for Denver, Colorado, and the rest of us, Dr. Justina Ford did not believe in the impossible. When Justina moved to Denver, it was with the hopes of reestablishing the medical practice she had begun in Chicago. Simple, right? It is if you're a white male physician. Okay, you're a licensed doctor from one state seeking to obtain a new license in your new state. But when she applied for her Colorado medical license, she was initially turned down. Imagine that. Eventually, after several appeals, her license was granted, and on October 2nd, 1902, Justina Ford became Denver's first licensed African American female doctor. In actuality, Dr. Ford, according to census records, was the only female doctor in Denver until the 1930s. When Dr. Ford went to pay for her license, the examiner famously told her, "I'd feel dishonest taking a fee from you. You've got 2 strikes against you. First of all, you're a lady, and second, you're colored." 2 strikes. 2 strikes! I have to admit, when I read this, I had to sit with it for a while. The simple yet profound statement, in one form or another, has been echoed across time in every language since the first woman drew her first breath. Forever have women been told no on the basis of their sex. Strike 1. And forever have women of color been told no, no on the basis of their sex and the basis of their skin. Strike 2. Yes, many things have changed and improved for women since then. Now more than ever, there are more women doctors, scientists, astronauts, generals, politicians. You name the profession, and women have made great strides across the board. We've come a long way, baby. But sisters, it's 2022, and those 2 strikes are in still ways part of our reality, right? For Dr. Justina Ford, the reality of being both a woman and Black meant constantly facing sexist roadblocks and racist obstacles. But never did she allow anything to stand in the way of her commitment to being of service to others. She was a doctor, and she would serve her patients. The question now was where? It just so happened that in the early 1900s, Denver General Hospital had a policy against treating Black patients. Immigrants and poor people were also often turned away, and Black physicians were not permitted hospital privileges, which meant Dr. Ford could not care for patients in the hospital. As a result, she was denied membership in the Denver Medical Society, the Colorado Medical Society, and the American Medical Association. Let's get this straight. She was licensed to practice medicine in the state of Colorado, but was refused access to work in the hospitals. And because she could not work in the hospital, she was barred from joining any and all medical societies and associations. Wow, that's a hell of a catch-22. Well, when all doors are closed to you, build your own house. Being determined, fearless, and committed, Justina set up her own practice in her home in an area of Denver known as Five Points. 5 Points, as some people were called, was known as the United Nations neighborhood. People of all ethnicities and backgrounds lived in 5 Points: Jews, Hispanics, German immigrants, blacks, and whites, and they were all lucky enough to have one thing in common: Dr. Justina Ford. Specializing in pediatrics, gynecology, and obstetrics, as well as general medicine, she treated anyone who needed medical care, regardless of race, gender, language, citizenship, or ability to pay. She had to learn multiple languages just to be able to communicate with her patients so she could provide them the care they needed. She often slept on a cot by the phone so she could answer calls quickly and would venture out in the middle of the night if she was needed. She would make house calls, first by horse and buggy, then on a bicycle, and eventually by car. Yes, once upon a time, doctors actually did make house calls. People in the neighborhood would volunteer to drive her around to see her patients, and for those who needed more than medicine, Justina would buy groceries and coal to help them out in hard times. It wasn't just medical care that Dr. Justina provided to her patients. She developed relationships with the people under her care, and according to her, 5 Points was a close-knit community, a family, and she would often encourage many of the young girls, especially the soon-to-be young mothers, to continue their education. There was no reason, according to Dr. Ford, that having babies and becoming a mother should stop any woman from pursuing her dreams. She was ahead of her time, to say the least. She became known to the community as the Lady Doctor, fair, compassionate, and determined to care for everyone. Many also called her the Baby Doctor, and while Justina never had children of her own, she never lamented this fact. She would eventually deliver over 7,000 babies during her medical practice. 7,000 beautiful babies brought into the world, guided by her skilled and capable hands, each and every one of them her babies. Justina truly believed medical care was a human right, and her oath as a physician to do no harm was a sacred trust, and caring for and serving others was her duty as a human being. Her duty as a human being. I want you to really think about this question. Do you believe each of us has a duty to care for others? I do. I believe it. It's one of the reasons I started this podcast. I want to share my voice with women in my own backyard and all around the world who may be in need of a little encouragement and inspiration to believe in themselves, to believe in their dreams, and create a brighter life for themselves and those around them. I believe giving back to our communities, sharing our gifts and talents with others, giving of our time and energy for causes close to our hearts is good for our collective soul. But why? Why should we step into the light of the Dr. Justina Fords of the world who have committed their lives to the service of others? Now, I'm not saying you must dedicate a part of your home to people in need or turn your house into an animal shelter, although I do know people who have done just that. I'm saying that we should take time to think about our personal responsibility to those around us, to our communities, or maybe even the world at large, and then take action as we see fit. And in the process, we may discover a deeper sense of self and how we fit into the big picture of humanity. A 2005 article in the International Journal of Behavioral Medicine titled Altruism, Happiness and Health. It's Good to Be Good suggests it may be that people who live generous lives soon become aware that in the giving of self lies the unsought discovery of self. I think that's just a fancy way of saying the more you give, the more you get. Sounds like another right-liner I know. So, go find a group, organization, or a cause you would like to get involved with. Maybe you're an animal lover. Volunteering at a shelter or fostering animals till they find a forever home may be just for you. I personally have a hard time with this because I would want to keep all the animal babies, but I can't. You may be a veteran who can share your experiences with other veterans and offer them ways to cope with life outside the military. You could be a retired teacher who loves kids and is passionate about literacy because you know learning to read opens so many possibilities for kids. Maybe you're community-minded and want to serve people in need of resources, shelter, or job training. Do it! Or, like Dr. Ford, you're a doctor or a member of another profession. You have countless opportunities to share your knowledge and experience with others who are in need. I could go on and on and on some more, but I won't because I've listed links on the Aquitaine Project website to some of my favorite organizations and groups that can match you with community service opportunities based on your personal interests. The goal is to carve out some time in our busy lives to give back to those who can most benefit from our service. Over the years, I've volunteered with veterans groups, Alzheimer organizations, and our local schools in a variety of fundraisers for local charities, and each experience has enriched my life. I believe this is one of Dr. Justina Ford's messages to the world. By enriching the lives of others, we actually enrich our own lives. So, service to others is good for you, but don't take my word for it. Do your own research, or better yet, get out into your community and gain first-hand experience. One of the most well-known benefits of serving others is the positive impact on our communities. Being of service to others also allows you to connect to our communities in a variety of ways and can make a real difference to the lives of people, animals, and organizations in need. Here are a few more reasons why selfless acts of care and compassion for others has its benefits. Being of service to others can increase self-confidence and self-awareness. When we feel we are doing good for others in the community, we get a great sense of accomplishment. I'm sure many of us at times have felt like we have nothing to contribute to society. Caring for others can provide a sense of purpose, especially those of us who are older or who have retired or maybe have lost a spouse. Being of service can help us find new meaning and direction in our lives and reminds us we do have something to offer others. Community service can help counteract the effects of stress, anger, anxiety, and even depression. Stepping outside ourselves and our own problems allows us to create meaningful connections to people and animals. In fact, it has been scientifically proven that caring for or working with pets or animals can improve your mood, reduce your stress and anxiety, and just actually makes you feel really good. Okay, I can hear you thinking out loud. Time. Marlo, where am I going to find the time? There's never enough of it. How do I fit serving others into my already busy life with my competing priorities? I don't know. Really, I don't know. What I do know is if it's important enough to us, we'll find a way. And for those of you with families, I get it. A really great suggestion is finding a community service project that you can do as a family. What a fantastic way to show our kids the impact serving others can have in our communities. This is something my husband and I did with our kids when they were young. We volunteered with the Daddy Bruce Randolph annual Thanksgiving food distribution program in Denver, Colorado, and it was and still is a wonderful organization. But I guess it really boils down to discovering what it is you're passionate about and who and what you're willing to give your time to. Dr. Ford continued caring for, serving, and enriching the lives of others for more than 50 years, and while she was beloved through her community, it took her a lifetime of work to be recognized by the medical community and her professional peers. After 33 years of building her practice, she was invited to join the faculty at Denver General Hospital. Finally, in 1950, 2 years before her death, Dr. Ford was allowed into the Colorado and American Medical Associations and honored for her service. Even then, she was the only female African American doctor in all of Denver. Too little, too late, many would say. I don't think Justina would have seen it that way. Just before she died, Dr. Ford summed up her life's work. When all the fears, hate, and even some death is over, we will really be brothers as God intended us to be in this land. This I believe, for this I have worked all my life. 81 years old, she continued caring for her patients until 2 weeks before her death on October 14, 1952. The countless lives she touched, literally over 7,000 babies, known as Dr. Ford's babies. Her fight to provide care for all people in her community, the United Nations neighborhood. Her fight against racism and sexism, to be properly recognized as a physician who just happened to be a Black woman. Her desire to do more, be more, accomplish more, and her belief that we all have the ability to do so. Her story is legendary. She is legendary. But she did not set out to become a community hero or a famous medical pioneer. Yes, there is a mural memorializing her service, a bronze statue honoring her commitment to her community. Her home and office is now the Black American West Museum and Heritage Center. She was inducted into the Colorado Women's Hall of Fame, and she has a special day, her birthday, January 22nd, recognizing her contribution to the history of Colorado and her selfless service to the city of Denver. While these accolades are befitting this remarkable woman's contribution to her profession and to her community, to me, they are reminders of the impact a single life can have on the present and future lives of others. What Dr. Justina Ford teaches us is that overcoming obstacles, it's just a part of life, and becoming bitter or defeated serves no purpose because it takes us away from what we are truly meant to do in this world. Thriving in the face of those obstacles and successfully fulfilling our duty to care for others, this is true success. Justina's purpose was to serve the needs of others and care for people, and this she did without reservation, without fear, without a shadow of a doubt. She was the real deal. Her legacy lives on, not only in public works or history books or the memories of a grateful city. Her legacy is truly alive, walking around the streets of Denver, America, or maybe even the world. Dr. Ford's babies, men and women who came into this world touched by the light of a true servant of humanity. So, in honor of this inspirational Brightliner, let's challenge ourselves to find ways to serve the needs of others, to accept our duty to care for humanity. Let's make time, be it 1 hour a week, 1 day a month, 1 week a year, 1 year out of a lifetime. Whatever you can give, give it. Why I love this woman. From the day we're born, most girls are taught to go through life being careful, cautious, and to make safe decisions. Then, if we're lucky, one day we realize in order to reach our potential, we need to take risks, overcome all kinds of obstacles, and trust in our own abilities, despite living in a world that tells us no. Dr. Justina Ford knew she was meant to be a doctor. She also knew she was meant to serve people, and even though the Denver Medical Society, the Colorado Medical Society, and Denver General Hospital all told her no, she was not permitted to practice medicine in the hospitals. She never felt sorry for herself. She did not become jaded or bitter. She never shied away from the responsibility she felt to care for the people in her community. She never lost confidence in her abilities as a physician. I mean, seriously, when you've delivered over 7,000 babies in your medical career, I think you know a thing or two about being a baby doctor. Justina knew the score, and that sexism and racism was just part of the reality she had to deal with. So she dealt with it and turned those resounding no's into yeses. Yes, I will practice medicine. Yes, I will care for my patients. Yes, I will uplift my community, a community that was marginalized and medically neglected. Yes, I will do what I was put on this earth to do. I will selflessly serve the needs of others. And she did, but she did it with love and compassion, pride and dignity, and a relentless persistence to improve the lives of those she served. Dr. Justina was a medical pioneer, a trailblazer, a social justice warrior in the true sense, who found personal satisfaction not in the public eye, but by looking into the eyes of her patients, be they black, white, Jewish, German, Hispanic. She was often quoted as saying, "Folks make an appointment, and whatever color they turn up, that's the color I take them." This is true commitment. This is true service. If Dr. Justina Ford were here today, she would tell each of us, if I made it, you can make it. Do not let the world stand in the way of your desire to serve others. As I think about this remarkable Brightlighter and what she meant and still means to the people of the city of Denver, the state of Colorado, and beyond, I am inspired to continue taking risks, overcoming obstacles, and turning those no's into yeses as I continue down my own path to be of service to others. Justina's life shed a big, bold spotlight on the power of community service. Sisters, let's keep her light shining bright. To learn more about Dr. Justina Ford, visit theaquitaneproject.com. Go to the episode page and click on Justina's picture. There you'll find links and resources about the life and times of this very special Brightlighter. And while you're there, check out my interview with Sylvia Lamb, a woman who has made it her mission to keep the life and legacy of Dr. Justina Ford alive. Don't forget to connect with me on the Aquitaine Project Facebook group. Just follow the link on the website and tap into the conversation.